Call the meeting to order.
Jenkins.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Harden.
Here.
Testori.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first thing that we have on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda. The next thing.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Go ahead and do roll call.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Testori.
Yes.
Motion carried.
There being no unfinished business, we move to section 3, new business.
Make a motion for resolution 2016-26, placing the 2015-2016 fiscal year audit on file.
I'll second.
Discussion. I do have a few action items that I was going to bring up in the non-agenda items and other business related to this. So I would ask that Ruth stay during that. But is there any discussion or comments on placing the audit on file?
Well, the only thing that was changed about it would be after the approval, it would change after this, for the TIP money that's in there.
I don't understand.
Larry was asked about the returned TIP money being in there, but it had to wait until it was approved before it showed record.
We wanted to make sure that we had the correct amount in there, Jessica. The correct amount is in there
Okay.
now.
Okay. That's the only thing I remember them bringing up about.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead and call it.
Morris.
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Testori.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Make a motion for 2016-27, directing city manager to purchase high-velocity pump for the cemetery lift station.
Second.
Discussion.
That's an insurance item.
Yes,
We get the money back.
correct. Insurance has already approved it and everything. And the nature of the emergency is that there's 2 pumps in the primary lift station for the city. One pump was destroyed, the other one was repairable, but now it's running 24/7. And so we're out there we're walking wounded, and so we needed to get the other one ordered right away. So I had consulted with legal counsel and went ahead and made that order. So this will be basically for bookkeeping purposes to have this resolution on file when the auditors come through and want to know why we made this purchase.
When will it be installed? Do you know?
We're 4 to 6 weeks out to get this thing. So it's custom made for that particular lift station. So that kind of added to the urgency.
Any questions or discussion? Call it.
Harden.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Testori.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Make a motion to go into executive session for section 2C6, setting the price for leased property owned by the public body.
Seconded. Call it.
Kelly.
Yes.
Testori.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're going to go into executive. Back in open session, we move on to the city manager's report.
Folks, I only have a couple things that's not already been discussed because the audit is on my manager's report. The cemetery lift station pump is on there. If you have been down Maple Street today, you'll see that the guys are down there. They've started the Maple Street sewer project. It's slow going at the get-go because they're immediately crossing a water main and a gas main and trying to get their first stick of pipe in. But as long as the weather holds up, that should be a pretty good project because keep in mind it's only running about 4.5 to 5 foot deep. So hopefully the street won't get tore up very bad, but then the street can be rehabilitated, maybe even widened because that is a pretty narrow street. Tomorrow morning, if everything goes right, the new sign out South Park will be installed. City guys will be out there with John Coleman. So if you think of it, maybe tomorrow evening drive out by there. The sign that says Soccer BMX is going to be relocated back down to T Road, more back down where it would be more appropriate. The majority of the work out the detention basin has been completed. It is not finished. As it continues to dry, of course we get rains, but it is drying down even though we do get some of those light showers. Then we're going to get that thing disced. I've already asked Ralph King and Glenn Reeser. A disc is kind of a thing of the past. You know, farm machinery has gotten so big, not too many farmers have a small disc anymore. But I'm asking around trying to get somebody so we can get that lined up. So when that gets good and dry, we can run a tractor through there and we'll really work that ground up. Then we're going to throw some grass seed on it, let Mother Nature do her thing over winter. Come spring, it'll be pretty nice looking. There was a suggestion made by Scott Testori about the using the off-street parking possibly with the Dr. Ray's office out there. So I had gone out there and looked at it, and on the south side there's an area there that could be enlarged for a parking facility. Keeping in mind that Gibson Area Hospital had asked before for TIF funds to do that, but they had never pursued it. So I got a hold of Rob Schmidt, he's the CEO of Gibson Area Hospital, and discussed that with him. I had Ruth get a hold of our insurance carriers to find out about any type of liability. Gibson Area Hospital is open to the fact that we would enlarge the parking lot there, which would allow for off-street parking, so you could sit in your car, look back and see the children at the park if that's what you elected to do. Gibson City is also open to the fact to allow us to connect that parking lot with the playground area with a winding sidewalk at no cost to them. They'll retain ownership, but we'll have an agreement with them so that can be used for people to attend that out there. I haven't gone any farther with that because I'm waiting to see if you're open to that idea. We would include some soft LED lighting out there, so in the evening hours that would be somewhat illuminated. If you remember correctly, when the original plan came in, I said that we would have some lighting out there, so we're still going to put some lighting out there since we would be using the off-street parking. So I don't know what your feelings are on that.
I think it's a good idea because if we get the parking out there, we're going to need some kind of parking.
I did, Jessica had asked about or made mention maybe about the corner lot. I do know Andrew Killian who owns that lot and attempted to get a hold of him today just to see what the interests were on that corner lot. It would be much better to have a house set there instead of a park facility, when I think that when it's all said and done, where that park is supposed to go, I think if you can see down the future, that'll be great back there. Since that detention basin will be working properly and you won't have all that overgrowth and everything. But there again, do you want to have me continue with that idea and working with Gibson Area?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Is there any objection?
Objection, I just have a comment.
Please.
The other suggestion, or the other thing I was talking about, and I had talked with Mary and Mr. Schroeder about it, we didn't know the size of the playground, was that area I think we were talking about for the parking lot, between the high grass commercial area and their current parking lot.
No, the area that I'm talking about is to go south, continue on south with their existing parking lot.
Yeah.
So you pull in, not to go back to the west, towards the park, go south.
Right, that's exactly what I'm talking about, yeah.
Okay.
And it kind of ends at that tall grass
Well, yeah, I don't know that we'll go, that would be an awfully large parking lot, but
That's what we were just wondering if that was an option to, with them, partner with them about donating land and putting the street edge parking right there, putting the park closer to the roadside instead of behind the housing. They decided to expand their facility. Do you want to see it? They will hide the park behind
well,
it.
I guess that's something, I
I
mean,
know
none of
it's
us can
brand new,
foresee
I
the
just-
future, right. But we don't own any of that other land, so now you're negotiating. We're having difficulties negotiating to go north up George Rock, and I don't know that, that's pretty well stalemated, so I don't know that we can go anywhere else.
I just figured Gibson might be a little more negotiable than,
But they don't own a lot left there, and that playground is pretty large.
yeah, I think they said 50 by 100
And
or
then
something.
by the time that you would put in a pavilion or two and plant some trees, I mean, you're talking a large area. But I mean, I'm open. I'm just telling you that this is,
We need to go with this. Gibson City's very good about working with communities.
now this is a TIF expenditure. We're paying for the concrete. We're not asking them, they're letting us use their land. We'll have
We're gonna need parking.
Okay. Is that,
Is there any objections then?
No, sir. They're gonna lease this back to the city, is that what they're doing?
no, it'd be, in essence, it's all theirs. And we will just have an agreement with them. They'll retain ownership. It will be allowed to have public parking there. We will insure, so they won't be held liable if somebody gets hurt there. And we would consult and have any type of a legal document drafted up with them, so.
Mary, you've talked with a lot of the other people. Do you think that, after all this detention thing is figured out, are they still okay with that part going behind it?
I can't speak. for
I know, I
them.
hear it both sides. I hear
Yeah,
it.
exactly, I can't.
And some are just don't care, which is fine
Right.
too, so,
Yeah, I really don't want to.
but putting the parking lot is irons it out.
I had one last thing too. The operating water permit for the water main extension was received from the EPA on Friday, late Friday, so it was not on my city manager's report. Calvin is going to get that thing turned on tomorrow. There isn't really, you'd asked about sediment, that's all plastic water mains out there, so there really shouldn't be a lot of sediment, but he'll flush that real well, and then they should have better quality water out there.
When will he do the flushing, Larry?
Excuse me?
Will he flush it when he first starts it up? or-
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So will they put flushing signs out for people tomorrow, before they do that?
It'll just be out there.
Right.
So hopefully everybody's watching the meeting.
Yeah.
Is
I
Do they
there-
have the
just
sign?
if they would put a sign out like they usually do out there in the subdivision, so people out there know.
They can't drink the water while it's flushing, is there?
Yeah, no,
It must
you're
be
just
long.
going to go ahead, that water has been laying in that 1,147 feet of water main, so he'll flush that out. So, that's all I have.
Any other questions to the city manager's report? Any non-agenda items or other business?
You said you had none.
I do. Does anybody have anything? I want to go back quickly to some of the recommendations in the audit, and I heard, I think the one that I want to focus on right now is the bank reconciliation. There was a smaller report, which was kind of a 3-page document that we received this last time. On the second page under bank reconciliation, they noticed there are 3 types of weaknesses that they look for. Actually 2, material weakness and a significant deficiency. They did find a material weakness within the bank reconciliation. The recommendations that came from that was that the board review the reconciliations on a monthly basis to ensure balances are appropriate and agree to the general ledger. But in conversation, as he was discussing this, And as I recall, this was the same thing he stated last year, was that when he looks at this problem and he juxtaposes it next to other communities that use the same software that we do, we note the same problems are pretty consistent. So one of the other things that he suggested was possibly updating our software. So I am definitely all for and think we need to move on that anyway. Maybe setting up a small committee within the city council to go over the bank reconciliation to make sure that we have, to make sure that we're not missing anything. But I'm even more inclined to begin looking for replacement of our software. I know that it's a very expensive item, so I wanted to get first Ruth's thoughts on that and also Larry's thoughts on that. So, Ruth.
The software is a good software. They've got all kinds of users. They deal with electric, with a lot of places. It is very complicated, but the problem that arose with the software was when we started doing the online paying, when we started doing online, so they could pay online, that's subcontracted out. The software itself doesn't do that, but they have somebody they work with, which is PSN. And PSN, this is when we started with them, what, 5-6 years ago?
Yes.
That's when the problem started. It's because of the way they record things to our system, and it doesn't, for example, they'll take in 3 payments on one day, 3 different payments. Those 3 payments will come in on 3 different days. By the time they come back to our bank account, they're put right into our software. They're right there, so you can see if they paid it, but to actually get to our bank, it's 3 different days. So it's impossible to balance it, because you don't know which one's coming, which one, and we're not talking, I'm making it small by saying 3. I mean, it could be 100, or, and you don't know which one's coming and going.
Is it impossible to balance in those 3-day period of time?
Because the actual, I mean, you know it's going to come through the next month,
Okay.
but it's just for closing that bank out for that month. And then that's where this, we have the general fund and all the other funds, but there's one bank account that kind of is called, they call it the cash account, the auditors do. And there's sometimes, and this happened at the same time, that's some money, the $100, the cash fund should balance with all the other funds. It should balance. But this balances bank, all the funds balance to the bank account, but this cash account doesn't for some reason, but that happened 5 years ago when this started. And it's just been there, they've said that all along. That's what he was talking about too. So there's an option of going with they have a new software now, and it wouldn't cost as much money as Civic. I mean, if we try to replace our software, we're talking $100,000 probably to replace, get all your software running and then training and all that. But they have a new software now that a bill pay. It's called Express Pay instead of the PSN, which was the only option they had before.
This
Now,
is the software in relationship to the online payment for
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's called Express Pay. And the only thing is that the big concern about that one is that people that are already set up would have to reset up again. But Express Pay has, if they take that money in, it goes directly in our bank. It doesn't take 3 days. The minute they send it to they get it, they send it right to our bank. So then it makes balancing easier.
Okay.
So that's one option. But as far as the software, it's actually, it's very complicated and there's a lot to it, but it can do anything if you've got enough training. And
Our current software.
Yeah, the current software, you can write reports, but you've got to take the time to learn it to do it.
He said that too. He said maybe sitting down and learning the other little bits to it that not just do, but like the library, learning to use it so it merges.
Yeah, Yeah, well, the thing about the library is that, and I heard his, can I talk about that a minute? I heard him from the meeting, and basically, what they do their own books. They do their own books, and then they give me just what check they wrote, but I don't know what it's for. It'll say so-and-so, and then I just guess, you know? I don't know what the check's for, so it's kind of silly for me to put the stuff
Just
in,
guess?
because well, yeah, like, it might say, I don't know what are some of, like AT&T, I know that one. But another one would be,
Different book companies. that you
yeah,
don't
book
know.
companies that I may not know are book companies, but I assume it's a book company, you know, and so I don't quite know, I just do a guesstimate, you know, I kind of estimate which, but basically, I balance their books back to ours, but this last year I didn't do it because it just seems like they already do that, so why do we have to do it here? They already balance their books, and then they give me a sheet saying that
Well,
it
we're the ones
balanced.
responsible for the books, correct? So that would be I think the answer would be ultimately we're the ones responsible, so we want to make
But
sure.
we don't vote on, they don't go through our bill list, we don't vote on anything that they do. They get their own property tax, they reimburse us for payroll, they're their own entity, you see. So what he's saying is maybe they need to have, instead of a columnar pad, maybe they need to have something like a QuickBooks or something that would integrate with their software, and then we wouldn't be double doing it or guesstimating.
He actually suggested QuickBooks for them.
For the library.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine they'd have a whole lot anyway. I mean, it would
It's
be.
a lot easier to say, oh, it goes to
Them to
this
do.
person, and then she can say, oh, that.
Yeah,
They're just giving you handwritten
yeah,
stuff now.
yeah.
Might make that suggestion to
Time to
them.
update.
I'm confused with the library, because we voted on those people,
We do, we vote on
We are over the library.
and they're paying their own property taxes. I mean, how are they separate but together?
They get their own property tax check. They receive it. They don't have.
they
to
receive
know.
a portion of
they've got their own-
their taxing body.
They get their own library check, yes.
I'm saying we can't be half over them and not. It's a gray, there can't be gray areas. That's the problem I have with the whole accounting system. There's a lot of gray area here. I don't agree with estimating, I don't agree with guessing. I mean, I don't want to be critical, but if we don't know the answer, we need to find the answer before we write it
Well,
down.
that's why we're discussing what to do now,
Right.
because I wasn't going to do it like that anymore. I just absolutely,
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think-
crazy.
I mean, for accountability purposes, if we're the ones ultimately responsible for the library fund. I don't think that looking at their checks and guessing on who they wrote it out to is all that good, because ultimately, if there was some major discrepancies and you put it down for one thing, and it was something totally different, then there's a misrepresentation. That misrepresentation would not necessarily be on their part, but on our part, and I think that spooks me. And it said significant deficiencies in that area. They feel that the library does not report their activity or give the city enough detail. This can potentially lead to some inaccuracies in reporting the library's activity for the year. In regards to their budget, I mean, a lot of times it seems to be a shot in the dark whenever they turn in their budget.
Yes.
You agree? I mean,
It seems to me that the city's budget in whole is extremely too fluid.
elaborate.
Well, when you're looking at the budget, there's lots of this last line. I know where that budget went. Where it says percentage of budget used. There's a lot
Give me a
of.
specific what page. Look at police.
All right.
That'd be page 3.
The electric.
You want to go to electric?
Let's go to page 31.
Got it.
Under vehicle parts and fluid.
Under what vehicle? What?
Vehicle parts and fluids. I think it's 613.
Yeah,
This is 31, I think it said.
Page 31,
Oh, okay.
530, 500, 613. That account is at 206% of its budget. And I don't know how it got to be over 100.
obviously,
And obviously money was moved into that account to cover that.
I don't know. I mean, that's a good example, 200%, but at the same time, I mean, with all due respect, it was only $1,000 in that line item, so it doesn't take a long time. I mean, budgetary speaking, you could, when it's such a small number like that, it doesn't take long to totally blow that. It's when you go into your salaries and your building expenses, your major expenses.
That was an example I just pulled up.
No,
But at the same time, in all governments, it does not take a lot of $5 to run a government over budget.
No, I agree, and I think that's where your overall percentages come
And then-
into a great play.
And what
I'm
I-
not disagreeing with you, by the
Yeah.
way. I see what you're
I
saying.
think your idea of having a committee look at this is good. I think, and my point was, I think that our budget is far too fluid. If you budget the money, you gotta stay in the budget.
What if you have a vehicle broke down? I mean, you
Well,
know,
what you have to-
you don't plan for a
But it needs more than that.
$4,000
What you have to look at when you do this is because, first of all, you're given a block of money. And then you have to take all these different lines that you have and put that money in there. But the bottom line is the bottom dollar here. And the light plan is running at 24% of their budget. So they're really doing pretty good if you think about it. Now, you could take that one line.
Bottom number.
Right, you could take that one line, and there might have been an issue with a particular vehicle that they worked on, so that one particular line is over. But all the, look at all your zeros that you have there. So you just can't single something like that out. Okay? I think it's dangerous to do that in any of the departments.
So I want to go back to the issue at hand, the different software. I heard two different software suggestions. One of the software suggestion was in regards to our online billing, and then the other recommendation I heard from Councilwoman was QuickBooks for the library, and
Yeah, so-
obviously some
Instead of a ledger.
set of a ledger. It's a little bit of training there. I think that we need to look, I don't know, unless we,
It wouldn't be too bad to start a new online on a certain date. Like, on a certain date, all PSN accounts will end. Here is your optional account to sign up to. And if they don't, then they're gonna get the bill in mail, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah, we've talked about that, about how we would have somebody here, probably Angie, that would be there to call to
Right.
for anybody to help, because a lot of older
Absolutely,
people
absolutely.
wouldn't want to do that, wouldn't want to set, but she could be there to help them out. But the thing is, a lot of people don't want to.
they don't like change.
They don't
I agree,
like
but
change.
In 5 years, technology of these account,
Yeah.
pay online things, the system has changed so much. I mean, now I can just pick up my phone and go, yeah, phone bill's paid.
Yeah.
There's an app for that, I'm sure.
I would like to explore these other softwares. Well, in addition, I think we need to explore, possibly I can have conversation with each one of you individually, whether or not you possibly would sit on a committee that would just ensure, if it's not just, if not monthly, quarterly, that we have that additional safeguard in place to make sure that everything is reconciled correctly. I don't see major problems when you look at the audit. I really don't. But there's no reasonable argument to suggest that you shouldn't have additional safeguards. So I think that would be the best way to go. So I would like to.
He did.
Yes.
He did suggest that they come and help get that cash count straightened out first, because it's been like that going before you guys, so when you look at it, it's fresh and new. So,
Very good. There was one account that had 0. We've eliminated that account, correct?
we don't even know which account that was. No,
Yeah, the big one.
we had a heck of a time with the bank this time. They had Sandy standing and pulling her hair out trying to get the bank statements out, reconciliations, because you weren't even signed up on some of the accounts, right?
Correct, I've been doing this 20 years and I was not an authorized user.
And-
This is the first year they pointed it out.
Yeah, it's just, and apparently this one account that was closed was never closed by them. So it was closed off my books, but I don't receive it, a bank statement, so I don't know what they sent, and the auditors never told me, so I will get with them and make sure that account
Okay.
is closed.
And then there was one other
Thank
item, and
goodness it
that was,
only had 0 in it, huh?
the other item was in regards to checks that have been written that have not been cashed a certain date. I think it was within, and I
30 days.
within
No, 90.
90, should be 90, should be 90
Say
days.
60.
Could you elaborate on that, or do you,
Yeah, I don't like to do them. They're, you know, to void out the check, and this is another thing, the system will do it, but I just have to learn how to do it, because immediately when I go do it, you have to, it reissues it, and I don't want to reissue the check. And then there's also the, if we have somebody that didn't cash their meter deposit, I've got several of those that they didn't, you know, they'll return. Then I have to do the government asks for a unclaimed money report that has to be done to send to the government. And I've asked the auditors to come help me do that because I've not done that.
But isn't it cost to stop payment on the checks? too?
Yes.
When you- It's like $30,
Yeah.
I thought. I'm not saying,
I don't know if this is just stop payment, this is just checks that we've sent out, then over 90 days, should be canceled. I believe that it's not they're automatically canceled, but on the check, if it's not cashed within 90 days, that
It
check
just needs
is,
to be
That's what I
that
canceled.
check is no longer good, but we need to make sure that they're off of our books.
but do you think that means the bank won't actually do it? I mean,
The bank would probably do it
I
anyway.
was gonna say, I think the bank
Yeah.
says, so if you don't stop payment on the check, the
Yeah.
bank's gonna cash them, you're
It
gonna,
should be investigated, adjusted for separately, payment stopped at the bank as necessary. Okay. That could get
You
expensive.
wouldn't want to pay $30 for
Every
a
time.
$30
Yeah.
refund check.
for their
I mean,
fault,
that's
they're not
crazy.
cashing their check.
Okay.
Is it just the meter checks that this is a problem with?
No, there's
It's any
other
check that's
checks,
written
too.
that hasn't been cashed within 90
That's
days.
just was an example of one of them.
Right.
You know, like somebody gets a $2 check and they don't cash it. I have several payroll checks that were from the pool that the kids haven't cashed.
Now, you said that you requested from the auditor on information on how to do that. They did say they recommend consult a representative at the accounting software company with any issue that would arise from the voiding of old checks.
Yeah, I need to, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to reach out to our current accounting software company on that, so, okay? Is there any questions, comments?
I have one more for Ruth. It was something that we had talked about afterwards, the budget billing. Is it possible to get that able to be started anytime versus just in October? And maybe a software thing too, but
Okay, but the way the October is that that's the one time a year when everybody trues up. That's the one time a year where everybody has, so you've got a year of history and then it's called a true up, which only, you know, you might owe more, you might owe less. So that's the one.
is there any way to do that more, even, we said even 2-3 times a year at certain dates versus just once, because people miss that October date and.
Well, you know, I can talk to them, but this was what was recommended when we started with the budget billing, just because it makes it easier for bookkeeping and tracking. But I
I
can
can see it
definitely
triggered up a
talk to
couple
them.
times a year, because if somebody, if it comes back around October, you know, somebody might owe $300 for overage.
Which we're warned, I mean, so like my true-up month will always be October, but if we added, you know, one in the spring, you know, in March or whatever, then we'd have then there'd be a March cycle and an October cycle. But if the software can do
But these
that.
people do it, so they're on a budget plan.
Yeah.
You don't budget that extra $300 if that's what it is.
No, but you're told about it, I mean, you're
I
still so.
understand that, but if you did that,
But that gives you a whole year, so you've got spring and winter, you know, so that it kind of balances each other out when you do it that way.
Oh, I agree, that's why I signed up, yeah. And correct me, when the bill comes out, it still shows your bill, but you just only pay the portion. correct?
Yeah,
I mean, we were talking about adding it anytime, that's what.
We were, and I'd still like to add another time because it's important for the citizen. If it's inconvenient for us, that's too bad.
I just came across it on Facebook, I realized I would not have known.
I've had more
I would
people
like-
sign up this year than any other year, so. I've got
I would like
several.
to see people have an opportunity to sign up more than once a year.
I'll definitely talk to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other non-agenda items or new business, other business? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call it.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Harding?
Yes.
Shelley?
Yes.
Chesler?
Yes.
Motion carries.